And as a part of our commitment to learning, we've organized this webinar today, and we'd like to welcome Rashmi Daga, founder of Fresh Menu. Welcome, Rashmi. And Abha Bakaya to moderate this session. Thank you both for taking the time out, and thank you to all our members for logging on, and my committee for taking their time out to being a part of the session. Abha, over to you.
Thank you. It's great to be here, and thanks everyone for joining in. Rashmi has a very unique story, and I'm going to get into that. Just before I start, if everyone could turn off their video, because it just lightens the load on Zoom, and mute yourself on your end so there's no background noise. You can keep sending in questions on the chat, and we'll of course take them through the conversation. Now, Rashmi has a great story. I mean, I'm going to in fact ask her to run us through it. But to give you a bit of perspective, she's been on, the 40 under 40 list, ET Startup of the Year. She's had major investments coming in from the likes of Lightspeed. She's been one of the fastest growing startups, particularly in the food tech space. And she has a very unique business model as well. So Rashmi, before we really get into, what things are like at the moment, share with us a little bit about your journey and, how far you've really come.
So I think the more interesting part about the journey was, while I come from a business family, it was never, I think for women, it was never the easy thing that you would go and do a business of your own. I think good education helped you to get to a job and have a career aspiration. But I think somewhere down the line, I always wanted to start something of my own. And because of that, I switched to startups very early in my career. At about 5 years of experience, I had moved to startups, and now this is like my 5th startup that I'm working at. So I think some amount of risk taking early has paid off. And this curiosity to learn a new sector, find a new path, solve new problems, I think that's what keeps me going. So I don't think it was a very planned affair step by step, but it was about what came best at that moment and what could I do. I think before Fresh Menu, I also bootstrapped the startup because I gained confidence that I know what I need to do, and I was wrong. So I had to wind down that startup. I think every year of a startup, you learn a lot of new things. So I think it's a constant learning journey.
And you've also switched a lot of sectors, haven't you, Rashmi? I mean, that first startup had something to do with art, but you've also done something in IT, or I don't remember exactly, but various different sectors that you've been part of.
Yes. So I think
all the same.
It's this ability or the thinking that you will get bored in one sector, and there's no point of just using whatever you've learned and sitting on that pedestal. Every new sector presents new challenges, and early on it was important that you just see the whole world and I think learn. So it was more of a generalist approach. I didn't want to become a specialist into one sector. Has worked for me. Different people choose different paths, so you can come around the circle in different ways.
Okay, so talk to us about what the impact has been like on business at the moment. Now, for those who are still getting to know your story, unlike the Zomatos of the world, you actually prepare the food yourself as well, and you also use cloud kitchens, which enables far more efficient delivery. Are you one of those people that are continuing to deliver at a time like this?
Yes, we've been on all days of this lockdown. We were earmarked as an essential service, like food delivery is continuing for all days. Yes, we did face challenges in the first few days in terms of approvals and police on the ground support and all of that. But I think we've been on throughout.
How are you managing with ensuring you're getting enough supplies to prepare the meals? Are there any special offers that you're trying, or packages that you're trying to do at this time in order to get more food to more people?
So very interesting, and I think for us also it has been this great learning in the last 20 days about something that hits you which you're just not prepared for, like no business model, no plan supports this kind of change, and things were evolving every day. We were in Bangalore, and Bangalore, some of the large IT offices had started shutting down before 20th of March. So we were seeing a part of it play out, but we never estimated that it would become so severe, both in terms of health risk as well as the business decline that we have seen in last 20 days. So I think all of those, instead of moving to a plan B, you kind of straight away move to a plan D. That you have to assume that your business would be a very tiny business for one quarter, and how do you prepare and brace for it. So I think first things first, we carry a lot of people, and what was most important is that we worry about the people and their safety. So we did not let go of anyone and put them out on the road or to risk traveling during these times. So everybody is safe with us right now. So that was one, motivating everyone that we are making sure all things are safeguarded. Cloud Kitchen is also in a very protected environment, where it's not out in the open and only our staff gets in there and cooks the food. Increasing all the safety measures in terms of temperature checks and hygiene, doubling down on the food safety measures that kitchens were supposed to follow. So I think a whole host of things were done first to make sure that we are safe, our teams are safe. They have the confidence that why are we continuing and why are we not under a lockdown. So what are the permissions and why people should be supported. Nobody should go hungry, and if they can't cook for themselves, food delivery has to work. So I think there was a whole people piece. Then the second level of piece was whole of the supplier base. All suppliers' warehouses were closed, their transport's gone, their pickup and the warehouse labor is gone. So I think we've all tried to support each other wherever we could pitch in. We've gone ahead and done that. So hello.
Do you see actually?
Abha, can you hear?
Yeah, I can hear you. Don't worry. It's just probably frozen for a second. You'll be back. Can you hear us? Let's just give her a minute. Probably just a connection problem. She'll be back.
Yeah, I think it's just.
I think the connection dropped.
Yeah, that's okay. It happens. Yeah.
I think our internet companies are absolutely loaded. All of us are on internet all the time.
That's a fact.
So I was going to say, do you see a spike in deliveries or, people ordering in at the, and also do you, I mean, at this time, maybe yes, maybe no, but going forward, do you actually see even more of a market for this because people may want to stay safe and stay home?
So a couple of trends that we have already noticed. People would, there is a flight to quality. So all brands that have promised you safety, quality, that you were aware of and you've tried before, I think is what you would go towards. So creating a new brand or a new business in food is very hard right now because finding customer trust was going to be very difficult. So there is a flight to quality. The second piece is people right now are very scared. A lot of societies are not allowing food to come in and deliveries to come in. The fear is very high. So right now, seeing much lesser demand. Also, a lot of our demand was very office driven and individuals, bachelors or younger families, which have all moved to their native places. So I think we would see a spike as soon as some amount of lockdown opens and some of the fear reduces that I can trust outside food. What we have seen is a clear trend that customers for lifelong would now be more conscious of hygiene and safety mechanisms, and they would want to move towards a trend of eating more wholesome, eating more probably organic, immunity boosting, which is better for me. So there is a clear trend towards that. And the other side is the indulgent side. So today I'm going to eat a big biryani and today I'm going to eat a lot of dessert. So people would flip between the two sides.
Yes.
I think that's what would happen.
Okay. So, it's interesting because let me mention here that that Fresh Menu also does some really amazing, interesting menus, curated meals, and actually for a very, very affordable price. And so I think you're already a step ahead in terms of a business that's going to, see an opportunity even post this. Rashmi, you mentioned that, you haven't actually been doing any layoffs for now, but how as a business do you manage the runway when there is so much uncertainty?
Sorry, I missed your last
So
point.
I was saying that, how as a business do you manage to plan for a runway of sorts when there's so much uncertainty? You said you weren't laying off any people for the moment, you're still conducting deliveries, but there's always a hit on business, during such an uncertain, volatile time. How are you planning through this period? What are you relying on?
I think during these times, cash management is a very important piece. I think nothing's more important than making your cash run longer. So while we are trying to, protect all the jobs, but there is right from a leadership voluntary pay cut to some of the other measures in terms of vendor payments being smaller payments, etc. So there is changes that you do in terms of cash flow management. Whatever could be deferred is
Okay, okay. Are you also seeing help from investors, for existing investors, for example, or were you already well funded at this point, so you don't have those kind of?
We are funded at this point, but we would need support. And I think we're getting support in different forms, connecting to companies around the world of how they're managing the situation, what could be done, maybe finding new alliance partners and new mechanisms. So I think it's pushing all of us to find new ways to reach out for business. So I think a lot of those is where you're getting support, but very early days for you to find reaction and go do the next steps.
I think, again, just to mention that Fresh Menu, in fact, already you don't rely too much on marketing, I think, from what I remember. And I think that, given the kind of period we're going through, it is going to be more about alliances and unusual kind of collaborations and innovations that come out of it.
Yes, they should.
So
It's a survival game plan. So anything that helps you survive through the crisis would be a plan.
So what do you see for the sector overall as well? Do you see more consolidation? I mean, from the big boys, we're already seeing pretty much a Zomato and a Swiggy emerging as the front runners, looking to buy out everyone else in their way, including grocery delivery firms potentially. What do you see as the overall metric for the sector?
I'm no expert on suggesting what would be consolidated or not. But what I see is people who were here for a quick buck, who were here for a short-term money making, the mom and pop restaurants or the cloud kitchens that were popping up. I think a lot of those would go on pause because dealing with this much of crisis is not possible for a small player.
Mandira, anyone else who's on video, just shut your video. It'll lessen the battery.
Overall,
Yeah. Okay.
Not battery, whatever. It helps in Zoom. Yeah. Okay. Go on.
Yeah. So I think there would be clearly better unit economics, lesser discounting. So I think in very short run, you would see a lot of players fizzle out because they were very small or they did not have the appetite to stay here for very long. And therefore, I think people who've been around for much longer, so we feel it's going to be good run for us growing from here. But yeah, I think we have to just hope that the damage is very, very contained with the current crisis and we are able to restart the whole process. So
Okay.
we're waiting for the variables to play out, but we believe delivery food would grow. People will not go out to pubs and fine dine restaurants very easily. And the moment some of the lockdown opens, delivery demand will go up. So we should benefit out of it.
Okay. Anything else that you're looking at? I mean, I know right now it's more about survival, but hypothetically speaking, in terms of new innovations that you, or whatever permutations, combinations that may come up down the line that would be interesting for you, because Fresh Menu has always been known to have its own unique kind of model.
So something that we're working on right now is designing some form of meal kits. We believe that anything that can enhance your home cooking experience, or probably new products that would be needed.
Yeah.
I think a lot of chefs are going to come out of this lockdown and they would need aid in home cooking. And I think Fresh Menu would want to play in that segment, maybe new kind of spice mixes for you, new kind of marinades available for you, or a meal kit for novice, chefs to support them with making something fancy at home. So I think we will evolve. We are right now working on those products. I feel that's another piece of opportunity. And another piece is building more immunity boosters, health shots, anything that can promise you overall well-being. I think that's another area of opportunity.
I think you hit the nail on the head. These are definitely emerging as the hotspots that everyone's looking at. Um, Rashmi, what are share with us some of the entrepreneurial tools that you use. You've been so successful. We've seen you grow from strength to strength. What are some of the things that have held you in good stead?
I think one thing that I feel, especially for women, is you have to let go of your superwoman streak. I think don't try to do everything at home, everything with the kids, everything at work, and take on yourself, because it feels like carrying 200 kgs on your shoulder all the time, and that's not going to work. I think that's one piece that has worked well for me. So pay for your support, and make things easier for yourself and feel less guilty about it. So I think there are days when you have the guilt trip, but if you try to cut out the guilt for many parts of the days, I think that's a good help, especially for women. Two, I think as women, you're trained to do much lesser networking, much lesser seeking out support and saying I'm clueless and I need help. I think we're trained to not say that we are vulnerable. I think that's another piece. I'm not great at it, but I think that's one piece that could genuinely help. And I've realized that whenever you go and seek help, you get a lot of help.
Sure.
So seeking help, I think the other pieces are at times even engaging with nothing out of your sector or your work. If you try to help somebody else with their set of problems, it gives you ideas for your business, because I think fundamentally a lot of things are very similar, and that is very helpful. Last, not being a perfectionist, because when you try and wait to be a perfectionist, you spend a lot of time, and that last bit of time is not helpful. So speed to market is essential, and therefore being a perfectionist may not help most businesses. Some businesses perfection's critical, like that's, let's say, pharma, or somebody who's in some domains where without perfection you can't go ahead. But most other businesses, consumer businesses, you could iterate through your product. So I think letting go of those instincts.
Yeah.
And another bit is PR and building your own personal profile, credibility. For anybody who has entrepreneurial needs, instinct, I think building a profile for yourself is very important. People should know what skills you carry and why you're good at something. Unfortunately, this world revolves around the fact that people who get funded are people who are most confident in the room.
Yeah.
So I guess if you have to put on the show, you have to put on the show.
This is true. This is true. Um, how important is a team, especially at a time like this? You need people you can count on. People that are core to the business. How important is it, and how do you go about building the right team?
Again, I've made my fair share of mistakes on picking up the team. Different businesses need different kinds of team. At some places, you need truly high caliber, very intelligent, very high IQ people, because you need blue sky thinking, you need scratch problem solving. So in the year 1 or 2 of the company, you need a very different set of profiles. And eventually, if your business grows in scale and size, you need people who can do a lot of administration, management, who are very thorough and diligent with their work. So I think the skills that you look for in your team, as the size of business you are or what you're trying to achieve, you may have to change every. The thumb rule is about every 18 months. I think the team has to kind of upgrade through the profiles.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think inherently understanding what you are good at and what your team should be good at, and what are the key metrics that you have to chase right now, and breaking down between what is the thinking part of the business and what is the execution part of the business. I think building a team around that usually would be very helpful.
Okay. I like that there's been a clear focus on execution in our conversation today. So, you've been very on point about that and how that's critical as well. Before we kind of...
I'll give you an example.
Yeah.
Give you an example. If, let's say, for example, Freshman U is a very ops intensive business, and on the top of operations, you put someone while who's good at strategy, but very poor at managing the people part of it or managing the process part of it. We realized that it was a big point of failure, because on a presentation, it all looks great, but in reality, nothing was moving.
Yeah.
So I think that's what you need to differentiate. There are certain people who need to be great at PowerPoint and great at putting a strategy or a model in place, and then there are people who really go and get the job done.
Right.
So yeah.
No, absolutely. And I love that you're giving examples. And just as we wind up, or maybe I get in a few questions. How do you keep morale at a time like this? I mean, people must be worried about their jobs, about coming to work, about being productive while at work, because anxiety is so high. How do you really... This is a time when a company's culture is brought into question, isn't it?
Yes. So I think as a culture, we have generally built a culture around we can do it, we love to take the risk, we are here to support, and we believe in here and now. And I think that's helped us, that people are showing up for work. Also, I think we're trying to motivate the ground staff with the fact that we are helping people in the times of crisis. If we were to hide and we were to not work, then a lot of people will have to further go hungry, and which is not what we all want. So I think using some amount of service to the nation as an aspect has helped me right now. For personal motivation, I think we have to see that this is short term, this will get over, and we will get back to good times. I think that's what keeps me motivated. Because there are days and times when don't know where's the end of the tunnel, but you have to tell yourself that this too shall pass and this is short term. So I guess that's the way to keep yourself motivated.
Lovely. Mandira, should we get some questions in? I think you have to unmute yourself.
I think a few of our committee members wanted to ask you a few questions. Yashodhra, go ahead with your question.
Thanks, Mandira. Thanks, Rashmi, for that really some nifty tricks on how we can kind of survive this very difficult time. I hope I'm audible to you to begin with.
Yeah.
Okay. Sure. Yeah.
Okay. I run an online accounting company called CA Expert, and my basic question, you did mention this very sort of in a very passing way that you do rely on certain metrics to run your business. If I was to ask you, what would be your top 3 financial metrics that as an e-commerce operator that you would focus on, what would they be?
See, financial metrics, obviously your monthly MIS, which is, what are your actual expenses versus revenue, and, what is your path to profitability. So those are very important. In a business like ours, cash flow management is another piece. Like, if how much cash are we putting back into the system to keep it running? I think from a financial point of view, those are the key metrics. Unit economics has always been important. So obviously you start with unit economics, that can your business make money or not at an order level. Then put the depth in the kitchen economics and go step by step. So I guess your business could be very different from mine. This is a very ops business, so there are thousands of bills, and it takes a lot of effort to kind of put I think processes in place to control costs. But in your kind of business, I think making sure you have a runway of accounts lined up who will pay you monthly, it's probably, my assumption, is a subscription kind of business. So I think if you can keep the revenue kicking in, it would make sense to plan the expenses around it.
Sure, thank you. No, my question was from my question was to understand what an e-commerce operator like you would kind of do in your kind of a business to kind of, what are the things that you would kind of focus on? Because operational metrics are, of course, certain things that one kind of always focuses on financial metrics are something that people.
These times are all
kind of-
cash time. So cash is the king.
Yes,
And
exactly. Yes.
yeah. It's
Yeah.
all cash management.
Right. Thank you.
Any more questions? I think we covered a lot of ground, and I got some lots of positive comments coming in. I think what was super interesting in particular is Rashmi, your in-depth knowledge, of the sector, and I think it's particularly useful to hear, how someone is applying some of the tools that you've just talked about, to sort of to practically run a business and survive through this time. So it was incredibly helpful. Thank you so much for joining us. And Mandira, thanks for having us, and putting this together.
Thank you both for joining us, and thanks to all our members for joining us today and taking this time out and focusing half an hour on your learning. Thank you.
Sure. Thank you. And everyone stay safe, and we hope this will get over very soon.
Yes, we're all looking forward to that. Stay safe, stay home. Bye.
Bye.
Thank you.